Friends, while it has become almost unavoidable for the government to increase spending on the education, because now we have a new policy to be implemented, that's NEP 2020, and that is seen as an effective tool to change the whole history of education in India and aura of that education, making teacher an effective teacher and introducing more educational products. Therefore, responsibilities will increase multifold in terms of the, I must say, how would be the policy in the first place implemented, throughout the length and breadth of the country. How will this implementation process actually work? It has started at some places and it is taking shape in the many parts of the country. But when you see the new policy as an effective rule book for tomorrow, therefore the preparations should start for that, bright tomorrow. And those preparations in the first place need ample funding. Those need, ample clarifications, ample, teaching, learning workshops, ample orientation programs on national policy and education, wherein experts are invited and they can deliver the various nuances and various, understandings of this whole policy in lucid and local languages, in comfortable terms, not in jargons, I must say. Therefore, that has become much more important, because even today at this juncture we do have a great chunk of academicians, teachers, the school systems who really don't understand what the new policy is all about. Therefore, making that policy understand to this larger chunk of people, it would require first and foremost the ample development in educational infrastructure in the country. Second, ample GDP share that has not increased for a longer time. That share should come up, and that fair share, I must say, should come up in the form of the increased GDP proportion for educational budget, and working to make teachers effective teachers. Friends, that's what my hunch is at the moment. That's what my concern is to tell you, because the change that we aspire is going to be at various levels. It's not going to be just one level. It is a massive change, and making the whole country prepare for this massive change is not a child's play. It is certainly a Herculean task, and if you have to make the country a global knowledge powerhouse and internationalize Indian education and vocationalize in a sense, and making Indian education more practical, job oriented, market oriented, skill oriented, that true value oriented, and so much of share to come from the languages, and so much of contribution to come from the skill development, entrepreneurship. The new things are coming up. Therefore, who is the primary agency who is actually going to translate this on the ground? Certainly the teacher. And how are those, how is that chunk of that proportion, that important, significant, part of this whole policy, I mean teachers, oriented, prepared for this massive, launch, for this massive task? Therefore, there must be an effective, orientation in terms of workshops, in terms of lectures, in terms of panel discussions, making teachers understand what the policy is all about. As I said, there is so much of confusion still lying with the policy understanding, that what's it all about. That has to be spread in the length and breadth of the country, and that too from the very lower level up to the higher university level. That should go up, because at the in the first place. If you don't understand the policy, how are you going to translate it on the ground? Therefore, it has to be ultimately done by the teacher, to be delivered by the teacher. Therefore, is that teacher prepared? One, is that teacher well oriented? Two, is that teacher receiving enough motivation, and is that teacher literally being provoked for this whole massive exercise? Is a big thing that should be done at the administrative level of education, in states, in territories, and in the center as well. Therefore, there are so many confusions at the moment that need to be cleared, and that ample and clear, lucid direction should be given in that regard. And what has to be started, what proportion has to be started, how it has to be started, how it has to be actually launched in the classroom, how the new policy should be viewed by the teacher. There must be the studies, there must be researches on the new thing, because if it is well understood and well taken by the teacher, who is the primary focal point of this whole exercise, it will be a successful job done. Otherwise, confusions will remain, doubts will remain, and if doubts or confusions are lying in the mind of the teacher, then certainly that is going to impact the implementation of the policy. Therefore, working for teachers, and while you are changing the curriculum trends, how is teacher made the part of that decision? Is teacher involved really in that decision will matter. And change in the trends of the social capital, human capital, what is the position of the teacher there, and changing classrooms and changing pedagogies. Massive changes. There are massive changes, in fact, when we talk of the new policy. And changing assessment principles, changing assessment practices, and changing classroom teaching practices, and that ultimately will change the psychology of the learners, in fact the psychology of the teachers as well. And who is going to take that into consideration? That too has to be taken well and understood well by the focal point agency, that's teachers. And the whole changing environment of this teaching learning exercise, and the models of the new schooling under NEP, those have to be worked out. This was my basic urging, and while we are set to launch, and while we are set to rather implement this whole new process, we have to see how much ready we are. And in case we have doubts, in case we need clarifications, those clarifications should be given, and ample orientations, workshops, panel discussions, seminars, research must be appreciated and inspired for this whole exercise, so that the new policy that is seen as the most successful policy so far, that is seen as the massive powerhouse launching project, that certainly should inspire Indians and Indian education system. Thank you.